Hello and Happy New Year! Happy New Year once again to all my loyal viewers of Wild Elf 26 and my outstanding subscribers. And again, it is your pal, Wild Elf 26. Now, this is going to be another walk and rant video, and I'm not sure how long it'll be. We'll find out together. And I want to give a big thank you shout out to Jula and Charlotte. Thank you, Jula. Thank you, Charlotte. Alrighty. We have a few topics we'll go about. It'll probably bounce around randomly between topics. I'll try to keep it coherent, folks. But sometimes these walk and rants are more entertaining when they're incoherent. Or wouldn't you agree? Also, I will be doing another gameplay video, a yakking and snacking gameplay video. And you guys can help me. You can tell me, do you want to see another NES game or a Genesis game or perhaps something on the PS2? All right, guys. So let's start this wonderful walk and rant. Now, most of the video is not going to be very visually stimulating. This is mostly just to draw out some conversation and things that are related to some of the topics that we're coming up with these days. Now, being that this is in fact, the start of the new year, which basically marks the end of the holiday season of last year, and I'm sure you guys had an interesting holiday season. I hope you guys got majority of what you wanted for Christmas. And hopefully you behaved good and deserved whatever it was you got delivered to you for Christmas, whether it be by your loved ones close to you or by the jolly elf himself, Santa. Or should I say, ho, 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 ho. But yeah, guys, I hope things went generally the way you wanted for the holidays. The Wild Elf, well, you know, I just hope that I have a better chance this year of having a chance at having a good year. 2024 was not the pinnacle of decent happenings. Not for the Wild Elf, and probably not for a few of you either. And so I kind of know where you're coming from if you had a slightly egregious 2024. There were a lot of things that I myself had lined up or thought I had lined up that simply did not come through. And hopefully this year situations will treat us better. Hopefully in your case, situations will treat you better. Hopefully your wife or your girlfriend will treat you a lot better this year. Unless your wife finds out about your girlfriend, and then you got a whole other mess to worry about. Hopefully your boss will treat you a lot better this year. I hope my boss treats me a lot better this year. Yeah. Yeah, so that's something that we can hope for, folks. At least we're still allowed to hope, right? And you know, with all these weird regime changes and law changes and some of the debacles going awry in different parts of the world, I still think it's shocking that there are people on social media in certain countries that actually go to jail simply for disagreeing or talking about certain subjects, you know. One, I think that's terrible. I don't think a social media service should allow themselves to even be a part of that. And yeah, it's dramatically a huge thing I'm talking about. I mean, if you watch some of the podcast of alternative news, which has turned out to be basically the truth over a lot of the established legacy news, and that's a sad thing. I think Edward R. Murrow would be turning in his grave if he even found out a monicum of the behaviors of today's legacy news and how it's been used as a puppet for certain political regimes. And a lot of that was revealed after the United States presidential elections in 2024. There were so many people that were caught completely off guard because the media news agencies that they had been following had told them, you know, how much their candidate was leading in the polls in so many places. And apparently a lot of these polls were just imaginary makings of the media, because once the actual election results were coming in, those polls held no reflection to the actual happenings. And so I can understand quite clearly why a lot of people were so just utterly shocked and dismayed and everything, because of the media services they were following. And I mean, they truly believed their media services, which were majority legacy media. And you can't fault people for that, because, you know, for decades and decades, some very honest people, some very tried and true, cited their sources, dotted their I's, crossed their T's, true news people in the earlier decades, the Walter Cronkites, the Edward R. Murrows, they you know, Dan Rather in his young days, they really gave us an honest insight into honest news so long ago. And then different powers that be, different millionaires that came along later, different billionaires started pressuring, twisting, contributing, owning so many of these legacy outlets that it was insane. A lot of these billionaires that were involved in this were also tied to the political party that was strongly sticking with these legacy media outlets. And with the advent of what they call tabloid journalism, everything from the early days of A Current Affair to even the very short-lived TV news version of USA Today back in the 1980s, which I think was kind of a direct response to A Current Affair and a few of these inside editions that started popping up here, there, and whenever. These had opened the doors for what I call gray area news media. Gray area news media was either a whistleblower thing or a spotlight, a watchdog spotlight, or they were a shadier version of the news that later had a shady influence on legacy news. And that might be controversial for some, but all you have to do is look at the past, look at history, and that's how it unfolded, unfortunately. Don't get me wrong. I was definitely a fan of a lot of these folks when they first popped up. Like Maury Povich, originally, you know, he was part of the earlier tabloid news before he became a talk show guy. And there's so many more, you know. Boyd Mattson got his start in some of these tabloid news agencies like USA Today, the TV show. Before he was ever a media darling for, what was it, when he was covering Desert Storm back then? He was super popular for that. But he made his bones. I mean, he made his legitimacy. He has a level of respect, and a lot of these people from that time section, that little slice of history, they're respected for what they've done. Maury Povich, he's had his talk shows and multiple formats for a while, and he's very respected. But the agencies that they were affiliated with when they started, these were the gray section media agencies that I said was either a whistleblower thing or tabloid journalism. And some say, well, what's tabloid journalism? Well, tabloid journalism, if I use a modern example would be something like TMZ. TMZ is there to get you the pictures, to get you the snarky question to the right celebrity at just the wrong time, at the time the celebrity's at their most pressured or tension or something, and they're really not loving trying to answer a specific question or something at that moment. And to their credit, TMZ, they get a lot of good tips, and their cameras, their microphones are there a lot earlier than some of their competitors. And is that a good thing? Yes, that's a good thing. That means they're hungry for a story. Is it a respectful story or an enlightened story that's not biased? Well, that's for the viewer to make that determination. I'm nobody's judge. I just call it like it is. It's a form of tabloid news, and a modern form of it. But that's what Current Affair and Inside Edition and USA Today show back in the 80s, that's what that was really back then. They were all trying to find their footing, but they were all trying to stick it to the established legacy media. And in a way, I like that. I admire that, because even they feel that they could show the truth maybe a little clearer, a little less puffed up, as the media, legacy media, has often puffed up stories or only shown the good side of certain things in regards to what it stands for on their political intentions, But yeah, I'm trying not to bore you to death. This is just my current opinions on things that, maybe showing my age a little bit, that I'm well aware of these things from the times they popped up, because I was well aware and watching television quite well during the times of these things. And but that's a good thing, folks, because in this age of digital streaming, digital downloading, and unfortunately, digital retconning. And you might say, well, what's a digital retcon? Well, in a digital retcon, basically there's part of the past, part of the history that's on some digital recordings or something. And if it's something their company owns and has access to, and they decide they really don't want the public remembering something, well, suddenly stuff just starts going away, And later on, when people start trying to look up certain things, they can't find it because a lot of it's been digitally removed, been retconned away, And what's worse is when something about the past that they got rid of comes back onto the digital record from the company, but missing like a ton of the actual facts, or only showing the good parts or something. And if we are students of the world, if we're students of history, we'll know too that it's been mentioned in books before that in the annals of history, that when it comes to like wars of some sort, Well, the victors are the ones that write the history. Whoever wins writes the history. So if they don't like how a certain patch of history went, well, once they won, they go back and kind of smooth it and reshape it themselves. They've been doing that since the dawn of the great ages. How you doing? Happy New Year, man. And yeah, it goes back to the Roman Empire, man. Roman Empire, when they took over lands, they would rewrite, okay, we gave them a fair battle and we took them over and whatever, and now the law is according to Caesar or whatever, and they're now citizens of the empire, and they will conduct themselves as such, and that's just a recurring theme in history, folks. The victors, they tell us what the history is in the image that they want us to see history, which is not always a very clear or honest depiction. And I'm sorry, I don't want to get all preachy. This is supposed to be a entertaining walk and rant, but it's okay to have a little slight infotainment, little edutainment. Yeah. But so we're getting down there. We're in the new year. It's times of different regime changes in many parts of the world. I, of course, am here in Florida, so the U.S. elections, of course, affect Florida, which is a major part of the U.S. My heart goes out to our friends in Australia, our friends in United Kingdom, because I was talking earlier about these strange social media related laws that have caused a lot of citizens under the Union Jack to be incarcerated for disagreeing on one site publicly or talking about a certain subject. It's horrible. They're being arrested for basically thought crimes. You go on social media to post your thoughts, to be out loud about them, to support this and deny that and try to shame that, and for some reason this was allowed to pass through the British Parliament system or something. Maybe not. Maybe it was just done through their current Prime Minister. I'm not entirely clear on it. All I know is in the U.S., it's not that way. In the U.S., social media channels make their policies of what you can support, what you can talk about, In the case of YouTube, there's a lot of freedoms in YouTube. And YouTube and Google are kind of one giant entity. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's up to the user to decide. But yeah, it's a massive entity. Both Google and YouTube basically as one. Sorry, folks, gotta clear the nasal passage. All right. But here in the United States, you can vent your anger about this subject or this group. You can express your views about this or that. You do not face penalties of a correctional type thing. You will not be arrested for your opinions. You will not be arrested for your support for this thing on the internet or that thing on the internet. Your voice is your freedom. It's part of freedom of speech, which is one of our main constitutional rights. And by the way, constitutional rights are rights. They've been fought for. They've been paid for in blood. Paid for in blood long, long ago. And they are not a privilege. Any political group or regime that starts talking about your freedom of speech as a privilege, you better wake up, son. Wake up, lady, because that is a huge red flag. And any group that would even entertain the notion of freedom of speech being perhaps a privilege that maybe we should not have on social media, you better open your eyes big. Look at that person and no longer have anything to do with them. Don't support anything they're going with, because that person may support the kind of iron fist regime changes in the future that would horrify you to ever think we would ever go through. And some might say, oh, well, that's a tad much, you know. No, it's not. We get very few warnings about the true the true iron-fisted or communist or socialist or whatever it is thing that could, if we're not smart, if we don't keep awareness, we could very much give the reins of power to people that would gladly turn the U.S. into like the situation in Russia or Cuba or something. And the thing is, we have this society that, you know, well, we're in this information age, right? We should all be a lot smarter because we're in this information age, right? We have access to all these wonderful internet devices. They have access to the entire spectrum of possible educational materials out there that are publicly available to read, to look at, to learn. Yeah, you can learn many languages. You can almost college yourself, you know, based on stuff you can find. It would not be accredited, but you probably could attain the same level as a 3-year, 4-year college student. But even that being so, unless people are specifically looking at the correct reading materials available, unless they're specifically searching and educating themselves and using the internet tools at their disposal for such purposes, a lot of folks are not. A lot of folks, especially the younger folks, you know, I don't want to come down on the younger folks, but these are just the facts based on spreadsheets and known stuff you can also look at. Young folks pretty much tend to use it for, you know, just superfluous activities. Everything from playing multimedia online games or smartphone games, Pokemon Go. Has anyone played Pokemon Go? Yeah. Okay, well, people that know that game, this is talking pretty much about you. And Pokemon's fun, but what I'm saying is the majority of internet use is not being used for the betterment of mankind. It's not being used for the improvement of oneself. It's usually being used in a business capacity for people to run their side business or their home business. Maybe they have some kind of Amazon or eBay selling business or something. And but for the betterment of mankind, for the education of themselves, the improvement of themselves, the education of their fellow people in their community or in their groups that they think are politically active. They really do not go the full 9 yards to really educate themselves about certain things, groups, positions. And I'm not saying all people don't. I'm just saying that there's a large enough amount of people that are not using these things properly, not even trying. and it's like it's being wasted. It's like the internet itself is being, for a lack of better word, squandered. You know, I mean, I myself, I use the internet for entertainment. I try to make people smile. You know, tell them about something maybe they didn't know about. I'm not saying I'm a professor or anything. I'm not trying to lecture you or teach you, but there are some things that I am voicing that are my personal views based on what I've lived through, what I've seen over the years, what I've seen over the decades. And I have to, at some point, believe that a good deal of my own personal experience should have some value, you know? I had to have observed enough things and come to a coherent chain of thought about them that there may actually be a little bit of wisdom to some of the advice I have to offer. I try to remain somewhat commonsensical individual despite these crazy times that we live in. And I gotta tell you, that's not so easy these days. For the most part, I try to be a neutral or positive person. I can find myself in situations where if I'm on the edge of some sort of depression or something, I have the capacity to go into a negative, dark kind of mood, and then I start spewing a lot of dark stuff. But it's not untrue, it's just not particularly happy stuff. But like I said, I try to remain neutral or positive. And for the year 2025, I maintain some positive belief that that things are set in a certain good way starting this year, and that it has the potential to possibly be a better year than we've had in probably 8 or more years. But a lot of things have to fall into place for that to smoothly go forward. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably have an idea what things those are that have to fall into place. If you've been following things as closely as myself and others. But yeah, it's something. But like I said before, my heart goes out to Australia and the United Kingdom. I really think that, social media platforms like Facebook, social media platforms like even YouTube, if we're aware that a country is using the platform, using what the people say or do on the platform as an excuse to round them up and incarcerate them, then I really have to ask the providers of these social platforms, like YouTube, and even like X, the providers of X, which is also known as Twitter. If they know that their social media is being misused to incarcerate people, then what's the ethics policy? What's the ethics policy? Wouldn't it be better to not, wish to have your brand associated with people getting incarcerated? For speaking freedom views in certain lands where that's no longer a freedom. I ask these social media providers if they know that this is being used like a tool in the UK or even Russia, then why do they not close down that division of their social media? Why do they not, no longer provide to those areas? And say, with the current law climate the way it is, our company feels that it would be inappropriate for us to do business in this market because we do not want our valued customers going to prison or jail based on speaking their mind on different platform sites. And then have that as a reason and pull out. Now, I know that would cause a huge reduction in income for the social media sites. But then again, I have to bring up, is it ethical for them to continue to offer the social media platform in those countries if they know it's being misused by the authorities to arrest and imprison some of their customers using the service? When Joe Rogan, for example, when he often talks to Elon Musk, and he tends to get Elon Musk as a interview somewhat frequently, I've noticed over the years. But even with Joe Rogan talking to Elon Musk, I've always have this urge, if I could comment during some kind of live comment thing, and ask Elon in the comments, ask him, is it ethical to continue Twitter X service in the UK if the UK's authorities are using the social media to incarcerate and jail people, imprison people based on what they say. I'm not sure if he would have an answer for that. I think the money is a big concern to the social medias, but I think that there needs to be some kind of some kind of event, a grand event of some sort, where the people that provide social media officially come out against any kind of laws to jail people based on what they support or who they were for on the internet site. I mean, maybe that's just me. Maybe that's how I look at it. I don't know. Like I said, this is a walk and rant, folks. The New Year walk and rant for 2025. First week of 2025. But it's one of those things where we are in this age of information. This age of incredible high-speed internet devices. And this should all be for the betterment of mankind. It shouldn't be just for the financial gain of mankind. I mean, I'm sure that's what businesses and corporations think every time they hear the betterment of mankind. They think of, financial gain, yeah. But I really think that we ought to put people first. And we really have to iron out these issues where these countries have made some of these abrupt laws, whether we have to do this through diplomacy, through our UN, or our actual guy was driving real fast, or we have to do this through diplomacy through our country embassies, that happen to be in these lands. Please, reach out to the parliaments, the prime ministers, and really approach them. Perhaps the royalty themselves, even to plead to them, to ask them, let's get back into a time of sanity, please. this situation of this technology was being used without any problem, and then suddenly it became a giant problem, and now so many, for so little reason, are not only getting fined, not only getting banned, but some of them are actually getting imprisoned over what they say on social media. Now, this should be appalling to anybody that loves freedom on any level. Whether you're from the United States, whether you're from the Republic of Congo, whether you're from Australia, whether you're from Japan, it should boil your blood if you actually give half a damn about freedom and freedom of speech. But maybe that's just me. I mean, it gets me. There's like this horrible irony to it all. They say our greatest generation were the men and women that fought in World War II, that liberated the world from the power-hungry Nazis and the power-hungry Japanese at that time. But then we fast forward from World War II all the way to the modern day. And here we were fighting to liberate and free these lands, to bring freedom back to them, to bring freedom of speech to them, only to see, through the misuse of modern technology, the misguidement of the use of modern technology by the powerful and the political powerful and the money powerful that have political leanings, that they would be happy with invoking all kinds of new, almost draconian laws for no reason at all, just because they all get a power trip off of this stuff. And yes, there are these people floating around. They get terrible power trips over just the slightest bit of being able to tell people what to do, being able to incarcerate people just for something they said. God, I mean, it goes beyond. It's like super narcissism, severe narcissism, especially for malevolent people that wish others harm. It's power mad. It's definitely bordering on Machiavellianism. And yes, Machiavellianism. If y'all don't know what either of those terms are, please, I implore you to Google them. There's a good YouTube site called Surviving Narcissism. He can tell you all about what a narcissist is and what their habits are. But the thing is, when those types of people are wielding incredible amounts of money, incredible affluence, and even worse, incredible power, especially of the legal variety, this is a horrible thing and very dangerous to the freedoms of much of the world, including the modern world. And I wish you all well. I hope your happy New Year turns into a great New Year. Please wish that for me. Again, my heart goes out to the UK, to the Australians, and to any country that's having this kind of similar problem with the unnecessary arrests related to use of social media. It's just mind-boggling. All right, guys, you have a great one. This has been another Walk and Rant with Wild Elf, New Year's edition. Sorry if it got kind of heavy, but those were topics on my mind, folks. If you like any of that or have something you want to say, please say so in the comments. Press that like button because it really helps out the channel. And press subscribe because that helps even more. Thanks a lot. Bye, folks.